Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back with another video from Mother's Basement. Today we're going to be checking out The Problem with Bleach. Now, I haven't watched any of the new Bleach series yet. I only just managed to acquire a Disney Plus account, and I was literally going to start watching it this week. I've seen a lot of good things about it. I've read the manga, so I know the story for the 1,000-year Blood War arc, but intriguing that I was just about to start watching it, and then Mother's Basement's gone and put The Problem with Bleach. So let's see what this is about, and yeah, let's just get straight into it. I'm excited to see it. Apparently the animation is just amazing.
I first found Bleach on the first Friday night of my second year of high school.
Okay.
Back then I made a weekly ritual out of tuning in to the late night Bionics block on YTV, which was the Canadian equivalent of both Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, but only
Beast
the
Machines.
and gross/weird side of those brands.
Reboot.
All their more conventionally marketable, family-friendly, and late-night adult cartoon fare mostly ended up on YTV's non-public access sister channel, Teletoon, which I didn't watch so much, obviously, because they didn't get enough anime, though they did get the Canadian TV cut of Cardcaptor Sakura, which, despite being only slightly less butchered than what ran in America, was easily the best and also only magical girl anime that I had ever watched up to that night. Now, you might be wondering how any of this is relevant to Bleach.
Where's this going?
And it's not really, except for that bit about magical girls, because Ichigo is a magical girl, you see, complete with his own kawaii mascot.
Yes.
But I'm doing a framing device type thing here, using my own experience falling in and out of love with the anime to summarize the rise and fall of Bleach in the public eye before I get into my own feelings on the series now that I've actually read the manga. And I figured that was as good an excuse as any to educate my majority American audience on how we in the Adult Swim deprived fourth world experienced anime in the days before Crunchyroll. It was pretty great, actually. Over the years, we got a really solid lineup representing a broad spectrum of tastes and genres.
England, it wasn't very easy to watch anime back in the day.
Ghost in the Shell generally went way too long without anyone getting punched or exploded, so I was really only staying up to see what happened next on FMA and Naruto. And, of course, to finally see Inuyasha and Kagome hook up. This week, for sure. Honestly, I think I was getting a little bored with anime at the time, or at least with what was on TV. But right before that night's FMA rerun, I got hit with a musical cue and animation combination so sick that it still reverberates within my soul to this very day.
Okay. Just Eureka 7.
And then, right after that night's FMA rerun, it happened again, only even harder.
2.
We'll talk about that first time some other time. What followed that opening also sticks with me to this day. In particular,
Opening episodes of Bleach are
jet black
spot on.
butterfly silhouetted against a ghostly moon. Bleach had this surreal, ethereal vibe about it, unlike any other anime I'd seen to that point. A cool, relaxed, mature atmosphere. At the same time, through its brash, bull-headed protagonist Ichigo, whom we first meet as he's beating the shit out of a whole gang of street thugs for knocking over a roadside grave and making a little ghost girl sad, it maintained that fiery, youthful energy that made me fall in love with other shonen battle series when I was younger. It also had something FMA had recently given me a taste for. Real, substantial character development. That saw that protagonist actually learning from his monster of the weekly mistakes and growing as a person quickly and dramatically, which I wasn't really used to in my battle anime, especially not in such a relatable contemporary context that spoke to my personal adolescent angst. I might have been used to it if I'd seen more magical girl anime, but there's no point lingering on what ifs. Even the monsters had this underlying humanity about them that made them more tragic than detestable.
It was a tragedy when it's when I was thinking his brother, wasn't it? Like,
thematic depth than they might otherwise have. At the same time, those character arcs made those fights feel like they were contributing to a greater whole instead of just being one and done episodic fun. Again, something magical girl anime would have prepared me for, but here we are. On top of that, Bleach had an insane sense of style in its direction and framing that set it apart visually as a more tasteful cinematic production than, say, Naruto or DBZ, which mattered a lot to me as a child who was worried I might be growing out of anime. But all that's ultimately secondary to the main thing that set Bleach apart from all the other shonen titles I was watching at the time, aside from FMA. It's pacing. Where those shows oozed like molasses between their major plot beats, Bleach sped ahead like a roller coaster, zipping from mounting mysteries to major revelations
Huge
in an
monsters.
astonishing clip as it built up to Ichigo's first encounter with a non-substitute Soul Reaper, who obliterates him, along with the series' monster of the weekly status quo, in the process kidnapping his magical girl assistant Rukia and launching us into another
Whole different world,
for an
yeah, it's like, whoa,
escalating
okay.
series of intense battles against a hierarchy of minor death deities that feels, you know, in retrospect, and this might just be my brain on game journalism, I really want to compare Soul Society's particular flavor of boss fight-driven narrative structure and world building to a FromSoft game, specifically Sekiro.
Okay.
But at 14, I would have said a lot more like Naruto and Dragon Ball. And not just in terms of structure and setting. The jump to the other world also marked a clear and massive shift in the series' pacing. More and more fights began to stretch from single episode
They did,
affairs to
yeah.
2 to
Multiple
3.
fights going on at the same time now. It's like,
That
whoa.
did feel somewhat appropriate with how the scope of the world and the story had also expanded. And certainly the payoffs to those fights and the long-standing mysteries that were finally being answered kept me coming back. But man, by the time Ichigo finally came face to face with Byakuya, I got
so
appropriately hyped
cool.
at all the appropriate moments, particularly when he went all hollow out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was like, what's
I
going
sure was
on?
ready for the arc to just end already, and for the series to move on to something different and new and cool again, like what made me fall in love with it. But that didn't happen. Instead, a whole season of painfully
filler.
obvious filler happened.
No,
which
the
I
bounce.
ducked out of fast. Then, when I tuned back in, Ichigo was training his hollow powers with some dudes I didn't know inside a warehouse, and then some bad dudes I didn't know who also had hollow powers showed up out of nowhere to kick everyone's asses and convince Orihime to kidnap herself somehow.
Okay,
Ichigo
right, the way you're
now
describing
had to
this is
run
quite
off to
interesting.
another otherworld and fight an escalating series of intense battles against another hierarchy of minor death deities in order to save her. And that's about where I gave up. I don't quite remember what the last episode I watched was, but I do remember talking to my friend who was still into Bleach about 5 years after I quit, and him saying, "No, dude, it's so fucking good. You gotta see the latest fight." And it was against the same fucking dude who kidnapped Orihime 5 fucking years ago in the same fucking white desert place, presumably on the same fucking night, only now they were flying like Goku and Ichigo could go Super Saiyan D.
Hell
And
yeah.
I chuckled to my friend, casually changed the subject to JoJo, and enjoyed the rest of my New Year's evening, content in the knowledge that I'd made the right call and gotten out of Bleach when the getting was good. Not long after that, news broke of the anime going on hiatus to give the source material time to catch up.
Okay.
And when it became clear that it wasn't coming back anytime soon, I once again felt that vindication. I wasn't alone either. As talk around the anime community had it at the time, Bleach was easily the worst of the big three, and thus deserved to be the first to end. It was bloated and repetitive, with wonky, inconsistent power scaling, weak world building, garbo pacing, bad fights, and a formulaic, by-the-numbers plot that is only ever shaken up by out-of-nowhere ass pulls. Great fashion and great theme songs, but that's about it. And that's how I thought of Bleach for many years.
Wow.
Until I finally cracked and read One Piece, that is, and came to realize just how big the gap in quality could really be between a weekly shonen manga and its weekly anime adaptation. From then on, at the back of my mind, there was always this niggling doubt about Bleach. So when they announced the hiatus was finally over, that Bleach would be returning to television
so
for a
good,
high-quality single-season rendition of its 1,000-year Blood War finale that would even fix some things Kubo didn't like about the ending, I decided to bite the bullet, give it a read, and see how the manga really lived
And it's
up
boss.
to all that
Yeah.
anti-hype.
Yeah.
To put it mildly, I was completely blown away.
Yeah.
Bleach is easily one of the best shonen manga I've
Boss.
ever read.
There you
And
go.
most of the criticisms I had against it were clearly either created or greatly exacerbated by the anime,
Yeah.
or simply misconceptions born from my own incomplete perspective on the story, such as the idea that Ichigo is a poorly written protagonist who wins every fight with an out-of-nowhere ass pull. That's actually not true at all. But now I'm left with a big problem, namely time, specifically
Time.
YouTube runtime. It takes a lot of it to fully and comprehensively explain what makes Bleach great, because Bleach is an extremely holistic manga. That is to say, all of its parts are intimately interconnected in such a way that explaining, for example, how Ichigo fully earns each of his big power-ups requires digging deep into almost every emotional beat of his character arc, plus all of his friends and several enemies' arcs, the metaphysics behind at least 4 different yet related magic systems, and the full cosmology behind at least 4 different planes of existence, both from a theological perspective and in terms of magic particle physics. All subjects which ain't nobody got time for unless they're
It's a lot.
already
It's a lot.
But the catch there is, if you simply leave it at saying that those aspects of the story exist and inform each other in many complex and important ways that ultimately make the story substantially better, the Bleach antis will tell you that you're just making shit up to cover for the worst writer in all of shonen manga history, who never planned anything and retconned everything all the time and didn't bother with world building and can't tell stories or especially write fights for shit. None of which is even remotely true, but if someone who hasn't read Bleach saw both of those statements next to each other on a random internet forum, for example, they'd have no way of knowing that and no motivation to dig any deeper, let alone deep enough to actually start seeing all those connections for themselves. Luckily, this isn't a context-free forum argument, but a carefully scripted video. And the Bleach manga does have several independently self-evident qualities that I can use to at least start making the case that Titan Kubo is a genius, and
He's
you
great.
need to read this manga. The most obvious of those qualities, I think, is the strength of Bleach's dialogue. Kubo's writing is well-balanced and fast-paced, like a great movie. Whether Ichigo's talking shit with his friends or shit-talking the guy he's about to throw down with, there's a ton of playful back and forth in every exchange, and every last character has a loud and distinctive voice, which is impressive enough when we're just hanging out in Karakura Town with Ichigo's buddies, meeting eccentric weirdos like Don Kunanji,
So bizarre.
and Ichigo's dad. But it becomes exponentially more impressive from Soul Society onward as our heroes begin exploring new worlds, and literally every single new character they run into within them, with even the most minor of speaking roles, is his or her own distinct brand of goofy little anime guy. Take the low-ranking Soul Reaper, who Orihime and Uryu get into a conversation with while they're sneaking around Soul Society in disguise. He's not just a generic mook, he's a small fry who acts like a big shot to hit on women. And that's conveyed entirely
Jokes.
Big shot to hit on Orihime. He's just a random dude who never shows up again, whose only purpose in the story is to reveal a little more about how the court guards are organized and add a tiny bit of tension to their sneaking around before they actually get discovered later. Yet 500 chapters on, I still remember his bit, if not his name.
Brilliant.
He did
Yeah, it shows that he's written so well.
More than most background mooks like that ever get. Ones who get fighting roles on top of their speaking roles are even more fleshed out and memorable than that. Unsurprisingly, since one of the running themes in Bleach is that its duels are all conversations wherein the characters learn more about each other and each other's points of view through the clashing of their blades. I'd say most of them are every bit as memorable as the best JoJo villains you can name. And by the time Ichi goes through beating up Byakuya, Aizen, Yhwach, and their respective armies, the manga's established close to 100 of them, each distinct from all the others in personality, power, and design. This massive cast does have its downsides. Anyone who's a fan of Tatsuki can attest to that. Bleach struggles to build the same sort of raw hype that drives the fights of Naruto and Hiroaka because most of the characters involved in its fights aren't really built up before they show up.
Right,
And
yeah,
the ones
or
that are
not built up
up
enough to care
get
as much as you
left by the
should.
wayside, unless they're topping the popularity polls. But there are also huge upsides. Because almost every fight introduces at least one quirky new character and ability, and most of the supporting cast gets to fight, not just Ichigo and his friends, the resulting clashes of personality are incredibly varied and intense. Even if the vast majority of them go through the same "I showed you my release, now you show me yours"
yeah.
formula, each duel has its own entirely distinct vibe, and the vibes that Kubo crafts are almost universally immaculate. And
Yeah,
that's
like
not
every
to say
fight's
that you
different. Like
can't do
no
it.
fights
The
feel
bit
the
where
same.
Kenpachi Zaraki is all like, "Oh yeah? You're not the only one who can use fancy sword techniques." And then
I'll
he
use
starts
2
holding his sword
hands.
with both hands
Yeah.
for the first time in his life is a strong contender for the most hyped thing in Shonen.
It's so silly, but
Hype
it's
is
so
just one of
boss.
many interchangeable vibes that Kubo employs to tell his story. Anyway, back to those designs. I won't dig too much into the fashion aspect since I already covered that extensively.
Shonen Drip.
a
What a
couple years
video.
ago.
Check it out.
One thing I didn't fully appreciate back then, not having experienced the full story, is just how good Kubo really is at expressing individual character tastes through their fashion choices, on top of those choices being almost universally fly as fuck, unless they're on Uryu. But that's also just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what makes Bleach's designs great. The manga's cast is hugely diverse in terms of age, body type, race, and even gender identity.
Yeah.
If it's not the most visibly inclusive title in Jump, then it's certainly close. And those features aren't just skin deep. They inform characterization. Chad's half-Mexican heritage not only gives him a very different cultural perspective from the rest of Ichigo's friends, but also subjects him to discrimination and bullying that plays a major role in defining who he is and forging his unbreakable ride-or-die bond with Ichigo,
Yeah.
who also faced bullying for his orange hair from people who thought he was half Japanese. Bleach's character and environmental designs also tend to be laden with symbolism. And here, Kubo draws from a much wider range of influences than your typical mangaka, incorporating not just Buddhist and Shinto iconography, but Abrahamic imagery and even some Mesoamerican design elements in the skeletal masks.
There's a lot in there, and it's
Which, again,
brilliant.
aren't just surface-level features. Well, the Mesoamerican elements kind of are, but Buddhist and Judeo-Christian philosophy, respectively, greatly inform the goals of and ideological divide between Shinigami and Quincy's. And beyond that, they even define the nature of their powers. Quincy's derive strength from the blood of their founder/savior figure, while Shinigami and Hollow powers are a manifestation of the individual's strongest spiritual attachment to the material world. But with all that said, perhaps the most brilliant thing about Bleach's character designs is also the simplest and most obvious: contrast. Soul Reapers wear almost
Yeah.
black with white accents,
On top.
while Arrancar and Quincy's wear almost all
White.
white with black accents.
Yes.
This obviously creates a very clear and strong divide between the sides of
You
Bleach's
instantly see it when
conflicts.
you're reading the manga
That's
because the
not
way
why
it's done, yeah.
genius. It's genius because these high contrast designs look absolutely fucking gorgeous in the default black and white manga
Yeah.
format.
It makes
in a
sense, it
way
works.
that
It's great.
Almost no other style of character design does, with silhouettes and tone patterns that read clearly even at stick figure sizes, allowing Kubo to create some of the cleanest, most eye-catching page compositions ever printed in Shonen Jump. Perhaps even more than Akira Toriyama in his prime, Kubo is a master.
It's one of those, isn't it? Because didn't Akira Toriyama make Super Saiyan a thing so he didn't have to colour in the hair black? Whereas all this, so much detail to the costumes and that, so much.
Motion that flows through every one of his still images, which lends the fights a compelling cinematic flow matched in their elegance only by those of the original Dragon Ball. And by incorporating not just classic shonen influences, but also design elements clearly lifted from shoujo manga, which we know he reads because, again, Ichigo is a magical girl.
It's a magical girl.
Actually write women. He's able to leverage that sense of cinematicism in even slice-of-lifey dialogue scenes, adding some doki doki fua fua sparkle to the cutesy romantic moments between Ichigo and Orihime, greatly upping the comedic value of the hanging out at school scenes. Kubo is simply one of the best and most versatile visual storytellers in the biz. And beyond that, his best pages, which are almost all of them from Soul Society onward, have a sublime mathematical...
Interesting take, because a lot of people feel that
perfect balance of visual elements. Many
dipped,
of the greatest shonen manga artists are known for their ability to make characters pop off the page at you, but Kubo's talent lies more in how he blends those figures into the page, making each one an essential piece of the greater composition. For my money, the series' iconic diegetic English title card pages are definitely the best example of this talent in action, and, of course, none of those is more iconic than God of Thunder 3. Kubo bless. As a dabbler in graphic design, I sit in awe of what Kubo can do, but it kind of eats at me that even with all I know about that field and manga, unless I also become fluent in Japanese, I'll never be able to fully appreciate the brilliance of his designs. Now, admittedly, most of the strengths that I've discussed so far are surface level, things that make Bleach widely appealing, but not necessarily good. I haven't really dug that deep into the real meat of the story yet, but that's not for lack of material. Bleach is an incredibly deep series, rich in philosophical underpinnings and even richer in lore, with several of the best thought-out magic systems in manga. I could easily go full Vati Vidya here detailing the series' greater cosmology.
Okay.
In fact, I got about 3,000 words into writing a script exactly like that.
There is a lot going on with all the different power systems and stuff within Bleach. It's incredible.
Nobody who's not already into Bleach would actually watch that. Unlike One Piece, this series doesn't really have a reputation for great world building that non-fans would be curious
Yeah, true.
In fact, the general consensus seems to be that Bleach's world is flimsy and slapped together, which it's not. But that is an understandable misconception to have, because the manga gives very little about its world away for free, and a lot of the explanations it does provide are given by laymen who don't fully understand those details themselves, or specialists who only fully understand certain aspects of the world and are lacking knowledge in other areas. So those explanations are often incomplete or even partially incorrect, and it's up to the individual reader to spot the inconsistencies with the art and other info and parse what's true and false. Though apparently Ryogo Narita's Bleach light novels do help by spelling certain things out more explicitly.
Okay,
In the
I've not read them. I see them in Waterstones quite regularly, and I am very tempted to pick them up at times, but...
the inner workings of spiritual pressure and the differences between Shinigami, Arankar, Vizard, Hollows, Holes, Humans, Quincy's, and Fullbringers comes from the series' various mad scientist characters, Urahara, Kurutsuchi, Aizen, and Sail Opero. And 3 out of 4 of those guys are cryptic dickheads who get off on being smarter than everyone else and like speaking in riddles and...
Aizen's definitely one of them, my god.
While Urahara is simply not very good at explaining shit to
Not
people
at all.
who don't already understand it. As a writer, I cannot emphasize enough how much I respect this naturalistic, show-don't-tell approach to world building. Nobody in Bleach ever says anything purely for the sake of the audience. All pertinent lore information is conveyed through fully in-character conversations or through consistent commonalities in the artwork. But Kubo only occasionally tips his hand that those visual clues even exist at all, like how Renji's Zanpaku toe permanently loses segments after Byakuya breaks it in its Bankai form. So it's very easy to simply not notice the complexity and depth of world building if you're not already looking for it. Kind of like how it's easy to think Souls games don't have much narrative if you don't bother with flavor text or actively hunting down NPCs between boss fights. Only
It's an interesting discussion. There are a lot of people out there that say there's no story in Dark Souls, but there really is. I know someone that's huge into it. It's like, wow.
Anywhere near that hard. If you do, though, you can find interesting connections everywhere that help to flesh out the few tidbits of lore that Kubo does feed directly to his audience. For example, we learn toward the start of the Soul Society arc that time passes differently in the spirit and human worlds, and if you get lucky while traveling through the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey spatial membrane that separates the planes of reality, you can even arrive in the other world before you left the first one. Later in the fight with Aizen, we also learn that this membrane can function somewhat like Dragon Ball's hyperbolic time chamber,
Oh
allowing
yeah, that's how Ichigo trains
for
for fighting Aizen, doesn't he?
training in the space of an hour. But the actual difference in time between Soul Society and the human world is never explored or expanded upon beyond that. At least
Why would you
not
do that though? You don't need to.
However, the Quincy side of the storyline does give us two key dates with real-world analogs that together suggest what that ratio might be. Those dates being the first death of Yawatch exactly 1,000 years ago, and the Quincy genocide approximately 200 years ago. Yawatch is heavily implied to be the source deity of every Abrahamic religion within the Bleach universe, with his name including the same 4 letters as the Abrahamic god Yahweh. But his character design and status as the son of the Soul King most explicitly connect him to Jesus, who, as we all know, died 2,000 years ago. The second important thing, the Quincy genocide, is a clear analog for the Tokugawa shogunate's persecution of Japanese Christians, which started in 1614, 400 years ago. And with these 2 data points, we have just enough information to conclude that the ratio is 2 to 1. That is, for every 1 year that passes in Soul Society, approximately 2 pass in the human world. Though this
Interesting, that's so cool. Oh, what a way to figure that out.
Right now you might be thinking, okay Jeff, it's neat you can piece that together from clues throughout the story and a bit of real-world context, but lots of stories hide supplementary lore like that. It's nothing really special, and you'd be right if it was only the supplementary details that Bleach delivered this way, but the series takes this same approach to exploring how its power systems work, and I'd say that's a pretty important detail for a battle manga. Bleach certainly has moments where characters stand around monologuing about what their powers do, but generally in very basic terms and almost exclusively for powers whose mechanics would be impossible to depict with visuals alone. Like the sword that makes things twice as heavy every time it cuts them, or the sword that inserts things into an object's past, and how those swords do that is rarely, if ever, dug into.
You don't need to, it's cool. It's like,
to let his art do all the
talking, yeah.
When Byakuya busts out his Shikai, all you get is, yo, fucking watch out, them cherry blossoms are made of swords, actually. Which is exactly enough to understand what his power does.
Yeah.
And then, when
doesn't need to be too complex, really,
Kageyoshi Senbon Sakura, you can simply observe with your own eyeballs that it's way more tiny swords now, and therefore way more dangerous. This preference does kind of come back to bite Kubo in the Fullbringer arc, because the whole thing's a giant JoJo tribute, and stand-style high-concept powers can be especially frustrating and confusing for readers if they're not properly explained. But generally speaking, it really works to the series' advantage to let each fight's choreography and visual effects speak for themselves. Dragon Ball is such a fun, easy-breezy read in large part because Ki is such a visually intuitive power system. Toriyama doesn't have to waste time explaining how Kamehamehas work because he can just show you a Kamehameha working.
Yeah.
But the downside of that is it's kind of simple, poorly explained, and limited in narrative utility. Post-Dragon Ball battle manga have tended to set themselves apart with more complicated and intricate power systems that are really fun for die-hard fans to sink their teeth into and speculate about. But the trade-off for that is generally that your characters have to spend a lot of time standing around explaining that bungee gum has the properties of rubber and gum. In case that didn't get away, I've been reading Hunter x Hunter since it first first dropped on the Jump app, and I fucking love it, to be clear. Togashi's plotting is
I need to read
the
the recent
business, and
chapters.
it is a really cool system, but man, the characters sure do spend a lot of time
Explaining
looking at
it.
charts and
Yeah.
doing math all over pages where
All the
there
NEN
could
systems
be
and
more art
all.
of fights happening. And I love me some math and charts, but one could very easily argue that that represents a failure to fully leverage the strengths of manga as a medium. And I could levy that same criticism at many of my all-time weekly shonen faves, from JoJo to One Piece. Which I don't say to diminish any of the other great things about those stories, or even to downplay the quality of their art, only to emphasize how hard this thing that Kubo makes look so easy actually is to do, especially on a weekly schedule.
Yeah, it's a lot,
Bleach
isn't
has
it?
a hugely versatile and expressive power system, wherein every major character has a truly unique ability that reflects some aspect of their personality and creates fun problems for their opponents to solve. Yet its fights retain the effortless, intuitive fluidity of the genre's originator because he's just that good at drawing damn near anything he can imagine, especially butts. He's really good at butts. And this by itself doesn't make Bleach unique.
Yeah.
Displays much the same talent for butts and almost purely visual fight exposition in Euro manga. But quirks are an ill-defined power system with no clear origin that can kind of just do anything the story needs them to. Whereas Zanpakuto, Quincy abilities, Hollow Powers, Resurrection, Full Brings, Kido, Sero, Blut, Shunpo, Sonido, and Hirenkyaku all have rigidly defined conceptual limitations on what they can and can't do that separate them from each other. Except those last three, they're just different flavors of Flash Step. But all of them also physically or metaphysically interact with Reishi, the elementary spirit particle that Bleach's entire universe is made of, in meaningfully different ways that are all logically consistent with one another and with how that particle tends to behave in its natural state, which Kubo would have had to plan for from the very beginning to depict as consistently as he does. The intricacies of Reishi are comparable in many ways to Aura in Hunter x Hunter or Investiture from Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere.
Whoa.
Two of the most acclaimed power systems in modern fiction. And I think the only reason Kubo doesn't receive similar praise for his is he doesn't really flex with it like that.
No, it's just
Most
there.
characters
It's just
never
there. It
directly
works.
Explain about the power systems of Bleach is what their specific powers do, usually in vague or poetic terms. The rest is buried in background dialogue between the researchers at Soul Society, fight banter between mad scientists, the technical minutiae surrounding specific magical items or ideas that do get brief explanations, like the Kishi converters on Urahara's spirit world gates or the barrier around the Seirete, and most prominently, in the very specific details of how certain battles go down and the broader patterns that are observable in how the members of each faction in the series fight. The only one of these patterns that Kubo ever explicitly calls out is that of the Arrancar, and even then, he only really covers the basics in the most basic terms possible. Around the midpoint of Aizen's War, we see a couple pages explaining that the powers of the Espada are all manifestations of various forms of death. Powers they appear to have possessed in some form or another since before becoming Arrancar, back when they were Vasto Lords. Looking back, lower-level hollow powers don't really fit that death theme. Most of the ones that Ichigo fights early on do more typical evil spirit type stuff. But there is a common link between all of them and the Espada. They all prey on human fears and anxieties.
Yeah.
As death is our ultimate fear, it only makes sense that the ultimate hollows would embody it. Though they
Different
can
forms of
only
death, yeah.
rule over it as a Rancor, using the power of a Soul Reaper, which is typically attained by conquering and externalizing one's spiritual attachments, the root of sorrow and fear, in the form of a blade made of hollow corpses. This prevents those attachments, normally embodied in the chain of fate, from consuming a soul from the inside out and turning it hollow. Hence why Ichigo and the Vizard, or visored, however you
Visored,
say it, were saved from holoifying when they unleashed their Zanpakuto, though they're still at risk of losing themselves to the beast inside until they truly master their deepest fears.
Really
a process which normally takes a lengthy spiritual journey toward personal enlightenment, but Aizen kind of cheats using the Hogyoku, which is... Wait, shit, I accidentally started writing that Vati video again. Sorry, I'll keep the rest of this brief. By observing the commonalities and the powers of the Soul Reapers...
Go into the explanation of the Hogyoku, that'd be quite interesting to do this.
We can similarly deduce that they're all able to use the spiritual energy generated by their bodies, channeled through those blades, to embody or subordinate an aspect of the material world to their will. That might be an element like fire or water, or the very ink in which the world of Bleach is rendered, a physical property like weight or the state of being alive, or a concept like fun and games and human perception, the beauty of sword fighting, insatiable unethical curiosity, or the thrill of violence itself. Obviously, that's a very broad category that allows for a wide range of abilities, but it doesn't directly overlap with the Hollow and Aronkar's manifestations of fear concept, and Quincy abilities, while being similarly broad in what they can do, all follow their own consistent internal line of logic, which I'll let you figure out for yourself by watching the new anime, or just reading that part of the manga. Every fight in every arc of Bleach contributes in some small way to expanding our understanding of these concepts.
Yeah,
but naturally, the fighter you can learn the most about Bleach's cosmology from is, of course, Ichigo himself, despite the fact that he has zero interest in exploring or explaining any of it. By engaging with his character,
you learn a lot from someone that doesn't explain anything,
his friends are going through at each stage of his emotional journey, and seeing how he and the rest of them overcome those weaknesses and insecurities, and reading up on at least a little Buddhist philosophy if you're not already familiar, you'll gain a much deeper understanding on not just how the power system works, but what those powers really represent, and why only Ichigo, with his unique origin, quirks, and personal obsessions, can fully contain all of them. But discovering all of that for yourself is one of the single greatest joys of reading Bleach, and if all of my gushing so far has convinced you to give the series a shot, I really don't want to rob you of that experience by spoon-feeding all of it to you. If I haven't convinced you by now, though, I really don't know what else to say. I fucking love Bleach, both for how simple and seamless it is to read, and for how rewarding it is to think about and pick apart. Its elegant balance of accessible action and cavernously deep subtext is about as close as it gets to the platonic ideal of show don't tell. But I think, ultimately, Bleach shows the limits of that very narrative ideology. If people don't know what to look for, or simply don't believe it's there at all due to negative preconceptions born from bad experiences with the show or its fans, they simply won't see it. And on top of that, a lot of it's just really hard to see, even without all the padding and filler in the anime greatly increasing the noise-to-signal ratio for the lore and themes of the series. Hell, I honestly don't think I'd have picked up on even half the stuff I did in my read-through if not for all of the years that I've spent getting good at parsing piecemeal Buddhism-based world-building and Elden Ring, Sekiro, and Bloodborne. Plus the last year and a bit that I've spent binging Brandon Sanderson novels, since the spiritual way in which he thinks about world-building and character development is very similar to Kubo, just way more Mormon and with way more exposition. Some might even say too much, but few would ever accuse Brando Sando of putting too little into his stories and worlds, or call it an ass pull when a Radiant busts out a new oath in the middle of a tough fight. The problem with Bleach is ultimately a problem of perception, created by over-specializing toward a lean, efficient, manga-optimized storytelling aesthetic, and greatly exacerbated by a rushed adaptation that bloats and distorts Kubo's vision beyond recognition.
I'm sure he said he didn't like parts of the anime.
By simply reading the manga.
He's involved
for
the 1,000 Year
yourself.
Blood War arc,
And the
isn't he?
new 1,000 Year Blood
There
War
we go.
anime is doing a much, much better job of capturing those qualities, so hopefully that perception will change. I'm Jeff Thu, professional anime lore fiend, assuring you that it is, in fact, that deep, bro.
Nice. Cool. Cool. I was worried that this video was going to put me off watching the 1,000 Year Blood War arc on Disney Plus, but it's made me just want to watch it even more. At the start, I was like, why did he say all these bad things about Bleach? But no, the manga is boss. I've gone back and actually read up to before, because originally I was just 1,000 Year Blood War arc manga only because I watched all the anime, but then like I've watched so many people say how amazing the manga is for Bleach, so I caught up, and yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I like the anime anyway. The filler was annoying, but yeah. And interestingly enough, I like saying this whenever I can because you know, rest in peace, Mom. I got into Bleach because of my mum. She, because at the time I was like, oh, I like anime, but like, it's weird like thing. She would always go and like for like Christmas or my birthday, she would always go to like a shop and just go to the anime section, have no clue what to buy. And I think she just looked at the A section, and there was a DVD which was just Anime Showcase Volume 2. And I'd already been watching Naruto, and it had the first 2 episodes of Naruto on it. I was like, right. But then I had the first 2 episodes of Bleach. It was like a random like DVD with just those. And we went on holiday, and yeah, I don't think I would have got into Bleach if it wasn't for my mum. So yeah, nice little story there. And that's a DVD I just refuse to get rid of. Oh, I'm getting emotional. But yeah, so thanks for that one. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and thanks to my patrons. Sorry. Thanks to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video, upload a link to the description of the Patreon page. $1 moves or less. Support channel is greatly appreciated. Thank you for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe, and leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch for some future videos. I'll see you guys next time.